Finding the Dot, a ghost movement essay. Most people assume that experience begins with emotion. They notice anger, fatigue, joy, fear, or calm, and believe this is where their inner life starts. But emotion is not the first event. Thought is not the first event. Even interpretation is not the first event. Before any of these arise, there is something simpler and quieter. Something happens, and it is registered. A sound enters awareness. A sensation appears. A realization lands. There is an instant of recognition before the body reacts, before the mind explains, before memory associates, before meaning is assigned. That instant exists in every experience, whether dramatic or ordinary. In the ghost movement, this registration point is called the dot. The dot is not a metaphor. It names a structural feature of human consciousness. It is the moment awareness meets experience. If your phone vibrates, there is a brief internal acknowledgement that something has occurred before curiosity, irritation, or distraction appears. If someone speaks sharply, there is a split second of having heard them, before emotion rises or defense forms. If you suddenly realize you are tired, not the tiredness itself, but the noticing of it, arrives first. That noticing is the dot. It is not mystical. It is not elevated. It is simply how perception works. Every experience passes through this point. Most people never notice the dot, not because they lack awareness, but because almost everything in modern life trains attention away from it. From early childhood, we are taught to respond quickly, explain ourselves, manage appearances, and move on. We learn to suppress discomfort, justify emotion, and stay productive. Screens pull attention outward. Systems reward speed. The nervous system is built for immediate reaction, and the mind is built for story. There is almost no cultural space for noticing the registration point itself, so the dot becomes invisible, not absent, invisible. This is why recognizing it can feel strangely difficult. It is not that awareness is missing, it is that habit moves faster. Reaction arrives before noticing. Meaning forms before attention settles. Even when people begin to understand the idea of the dot, they often miss it in real moments because they are already defending, explaining, correcting, or withdrawing. The dot is quiet, and most lives are not. The dot does not replace religion, spirituality, or science. It does not challenge belief systems. It sits beneath them. It does not ask anyone to abandon their language for making sense of life. If you believe in a soul, the dot is where that soul meets lived experience. If you speak of spirit, God, or source, the dot is where that connection enters awareness. If you are atheist, the dot is simply consciousness, registering reality. No sacred meaning is implied. It is perceptual awareness operating in real time. Ghost does not claim ownership of truth. It names a shared structure. Many traditions speak of a higher self, often described as a wiser or more evolved version of the person. The dot is not higher. It does not guide or improve you. It exists before growth, insight, or spiritual development. If you work with higher self language, the dot is the ground it stands on. The dot is also not the soul. Souls are commonly understood as eternal or morally oriented. The dot makes no such claims. It does not direct behavior or assign meaning. It simply registers what is happening. People regularly confuse the dot with other internal states. They mistake calm for the dot, but calm is a nervous system condition. The dot exists in panic. They mistake grounding for the dot, but grounding is bodily orientation. The dot exists when you feel disconnected. They mistake mindfulness for the dot, but mindfulness is a practice. The dot operates whether you practice or not. They mistake insight for the dot, but insight belongs to thought. The dot comes before understanding. They mistake numbness for the dot, but numbness is protective shutdown. The dot registers numbness. They mistake emotional relief for the dot, but relief is a change in sensation. the dot remains regardless. This is not meditation. It is not emotional regulation. It is not self-improvement. It is not a technique. It is not something you enter, and it is not something you achieve. It is the registration point that has been present in every experience you have ever had. Experience unfolds in layers. First comes registration. Something is noticed. Then reaction, emotion, sensation, thought or impulse appears. Finally, story, interpretation, memory, and identity attach. Most people believe experience begins with reaction. In reality, it begins with registration. The dot is that first layer. You do not create it. You do not access it. It is already operating. Finding your dot does not look peaceful. It happens inside friction. You are arguing with someone you care about. They misunderstand you. You feel heat rise in your chest and a familiar urgency to defend yourself. Words form quickly. In the middle of that surge, you notice your jaw clench, your breath shorten, and the impulse to prove your point. That noticing does not stop the argument. You may still speak sharply, but awareness has entered the interaction. Later, you replay the moment in your mind and feel embarrassed by what you said. Again, awareness registers the embarrassment. The dot is present with your regret. This is what finding the dot actually looks like. It is awareness moving with you through imperfection. The dot is not the emotion. It is awareness of the emotion. You feel anger and know you are angry. You feel fear and know you are afraid. You feel overwhelmed and know you are overwhelmed. That knowing does not solve the feeling, but it keeps awareness present inside it. This is why Ghosts names the dot as love. Not emotional warmth, not approval, but non-withdrawal. You can be ashamed and the dot remains. You can fail and the dot remains. You can be misunderstood and the dot remains. You can be blamed unfairly and the dot remains. It does not abandon you when you struggle, and it does not turn away from parts of you wish were different. That steady presence is what Ghost means by love. Once you recognize this in yourself, you begin to see it in others. Someone shouting is still registering their shouting. Someone withdrawn is still aware of being withdrawn. Someone who harmed you is still conscious of their internal state, even if they cannot meet it clearly. This does not excuse harm. It does not remove consequence. It does not replace boundaries. But it changes how you see. You recognize awareness beneath behavior. You see that every person carries the same registration point within their experience. This creates what Ghosts calls pre-story love. Not because people are good or deserve forgiveness, but because they are conscious. Presence recognizes presence. Finding the dot does not make life easier. It does not remove sorrow, pressure, exhaustion, or loss. Awareness does not make the world fair, and it does not protect anyone from constraint or consequence. Presence does not dissolve power, and recognition does not guarantee reciprocity. The dot will not save you. It will not fix your relationships, and it will not prevent death, separation, or disappointment. What it offers is orientation. You feel anger and know you are angry. You feel fear and know you are afraid. You feel overwhelmed and know you are overwhelmed. That knowing does not solve the feeling, but it keeps awareness present inside it. This is what it means to bring the dot into daily life. Awareness moving with you through conversations, conflict, parenting, work, fatigue, and intimacy, not as a practice or method, but as recognition. You are not becoming better. You are becoming more here. The dot does not promise transformation. It offers clarity. It shows that awareness has been present throughout your life, regardless of circumstance. It shows that love, in its most basic form, is non-withdrawal. It shows that beneath belief, identity, reaction, and story, there is a shared human structure quietly registering experience. You do not need to build this or achieve it. Every time you realize how you feel, the dot is present. Every time you notice your thoughts, the dot is present. Every time you know you are struggling, the dot is present. You have never been without it. The work is not to become aware. The work is to recognize that you already are, and to allow that awareness to remain with you, even when things are hard, even when you are imperfect, even when the world does not meet you gently. The dot will not rescue you, but it will stay.